Hi, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how you can convert the fact that you do not speak fluent French in France and convert that into your strengths. So if you're looking for a job, part-time, full-time, or even opportunities or collaborations as a content creator, then this video would be useful. The strategy that I'm going to share with you is based on the experiences that I've had while I was in France and the strategy that has evolved from it. I even use it till date, even outside of France. And it's also based on my research and observing what people were doing around me when they did not speak fluent French to find opportunities in France. So hopefully this video will be useful for you, because if you are feeling dejected or hopeless, I know how that feels. I have been there, and therefore I would like to share with you some really different tips apart from the usual tips, which are about finding opportunities based on your strengths. I'm going to share how you can find opportunities based on strengths that you probably don't even know you have. Using these strategies, I have found internships, opportunities, and even I had a small business while I was in France when I did not speak any French or pretty bad French. To start with my experience, what happened was when I was looking for my first internship and I was getting rejected because I did not speak any French at that time and I had just landed in France, and within 10 months we were looking out for a first internship. Even though my classmates and friends were international students, they had studied French while growing up, or they had studied it in their colleges. So there were all these Asian Chinese students who primarily had studied French as their bachelor's, whereas I had studied commerce as in my bachelor's. So they knew French and they were finding it much easier to find internships and opportunities. Then my friend suggested that my friend, and she's very smart, she spoke very many languages, she suggested, why don't you search for opportunities which require the languages that you already know, which are Indian languages such as Hindi, Bengali, and so on. And at that point, my first reaction was, well, who's going to look for someone who speaks Hindi or Bengali in France? I'm not in India, and that would not be in demand. And I was really surprised to find that there were some opportunities on the job portal, on the internship portal of my school at that time, and also other sites that I was referring to while looking for internships. So which goes to show that if you look, you probably find opportunities like that which use your current language skills. Yes, so if you're an Indian, it means that you know some Indian languages, at least one Indian language, and that can be something you can use strategically in your job search or opportunity hunt. I know you're saying at this point, Vendrila, who would even think of looking for someone who speaks, say, Tamil or Hindi in France? But you have to understand that a lot of French companies want to expand their business in India, and therefore they would appreciate the help of someone who understands the Indian psyche, the Indian languages, be able to talk to people in India and guide them on how to launch their services or products in India. Next, I want to talk to you about the small opportunity or the small business that I created, which I really wouldn't call it a business, but since it wasn't a job and since it wasn't a part-time job either, I have to call it a small business because it was based off my idea. To give context, French people and foreigners are highly interested in Indian food, art, music, and culture. My marketing professor at the business school was highly interested in talking about spirituality, Varanasi, and his experiences while traveling in India. This shows the perception and appreciation for Indian arts, culture, music, and spirituality in France. In my first semester in France, I would obviously miss Indian food, and I would make it a point to go and visit these Indian restaurants in the city at least once a week or twice a month. And I was pretty underwhelmed by the food because it felt like it was pretty much the same sauce splashed on top of different proteins, be it prawn, chicken, or mutton, or fish, or vegetables if you are a vegetarian. I saw no point of going to a restaurant and having that food where I could just buy that sauce and add it to my proteins or my vegetables. Anyway, in the second semester, I moved to the city of Lyon, and I found this rather small and cozy Indian restaurant on the periphery of the city, which was rather unknown compared to or rather lesser known compared to the other restaurants I would visit when I would be living in the suburbs and I would be visiting these restaurants in the central part of the city. And at a business school, it is very common, or even any university that you are currently enrolled in or you will probably enroll in, it's very common for students from across different cultures, from different countries, to want to know more about your culture. And the best way, one of the best ways to do that is through food. Therefore, many of my classmates, friends, and colleagues from across different programs would plan Indian dinners very often. Once I suggested this small Indian restaurant that I had discovered because I wanted to present them a more authentic version of Indian food rather than these same sauce, same food restaurants. I proposed that restaurant and I said that I found this to be a little more authentic than the others, and others were very interested in trying that out. There were 20 of us at this dinner and we had a great time. And then I thought to myself, not only did I present a more authentic version of Indian food to these foreigners, but I also helped this small restaurant owner by bringing such a huge group of people. Then I thought to myself, why don't I make this a more regular occurrence? And I spoke to the restaurant owner and I said, hey, I can bring in more people to your restaurant, which seems to be a little unnoticed, and you can give me a commission of the total bill. And the restaurant owner was more than happy to accommodate, because it was a win-win situation, as they say in business, as much as I hate that jargon, but it was a win-win for both of us. I did a bunch of these dinners as much as I could within my schedule of studying and managing my life and also looking for internships. And that was also a very tiny amount. I won't even call it a business, but that was something that I could do because I came from India and I was not from France. So that's the whole point. If you have to take anything away from this, is that you are probably taking for granted the fact that you're from India and you probably come with a certain set of cultural experiences, cultural knowledge, skills that people would pay for, that people would want to be around. And that is something that you can use. You might say that, oh, Indrila, I definitely am an introvert. I do not have that capability to go and arrange something like this or go and talk to people. Then there are other opportunities. I'm going to talk about that in a bit, and also based on what I have seen others doing. But at the same time, I want to come back to this and say that if you're not from France, it means that you're from some other country. If you do not speak French, then you speak some other language. And those are the things, your language and your ethnicity is something that you can capitalize on in the beginning to get a foot in the door. Much later in life, even this year when I was looking for jobs in USA, I quite forgot about this strategy, and then someone else reminded me of this strategy. She also happens to be from Lyon, but we had just met on LinkedIn, and she told me that when I'm in a new country, I try to look for jobs based on my mother tongue, people who are looking, in her case, she's Italian, people who are looking for Italian. And then I thought, okay, let's just look, but who's going to look for someone speaking Hindi or Bengali or some Indian language in USA? And much to my surprise, again, I found so many interesting opportunities just in the field. And that really helped me get a foot in the door, in the sense that it got me talking to the hiring managers and get me interviews. If you are despairing over the fact that I am getting rejected because I do not speak French, then let me tell you, they are probably looking for someone who speaks the language you already speak. Or it could be that they are already looking for someone in part-time or full-time jobs who has skill sets that you have. Now think about all the skills that you have probably learned and you take it for granted because A, either you did not pursue a career in it, or B, you're so good at it that you don't realize it's your skill set. Now coming to the examples of what other people did, I had known someone who at that point was giving yoga lessons for 11 euros. I still remember the amount. I was very curious of how he even thought of that, considering that he was not a yoga teacher or he did not have any prior experience in teaching yoga in India or anywhere else. And he said that he just announced it somewhere and people were interested. And that again is, I think, because of the fact that he is Indian and people assume that you would know yoga, and he probably had done some yoga stretches and he could just teach the basics, if not the advanced. And so if you're someone who's saying that, yeah, I know something but I'm not an expert in it, you don't need to be an expert to teach the steps 1 to 5 or 1 to 2. Let's say you learned classical singing, you learned some instrument, which a lot of Indians actually do while growing up, and we don't pursue careers in it, but you could teach the steps 1 to 2, if not 1 to 10. The other things that you can do without knowing French in France is doing work which does not require French, like part-time jobs, like distributing flyers, translating between 2 languages, writing in English, teaching in English, and these are all things that you don't need French for. In the job portal and internship portal of my business school, there would be many opportunities for distributing flyers or doing these random jobs which did not require you to speak in French. And there was also an opportunity I had of doing some translation for my school itself, but then the timing didn't work. And that's also something that you have to keep in mind, that since you're going to be studying and managing your life and also potentially learning French, hopefully, then you would be so swamped with work that you would not have probably the time to do a regular part-time, like working in a McDonald's or working in retail, because your timings would be, first of all, erratic, and second of all, they would be pretty unpredictable, and third of all, it's going to be you're going to be pretty occupied to devote time to a part-time job. And I personally don't think it's a good strategy to occupy yourself with part-time jobs when you're a student in France, because it's not something that is feasible, and at the same time it's not something that is going to be the best experience for you once you're in France. Now, the takeaway from this entire me sharing my experiences, as well as the experiences and my research of others in France who do not speak French and how they managed, is that you should focus on your strengths. I would highly recommend that you focus on your strengths, which you take for granted, and that would be your languages that you already speak and your ethnicity. And I'm not saying this could be your career for the rest of your life. I mean, no one does anything for the rest of their lives. We start off with thinking we want to try that, and then we tweak our path. And this is something that you can just start off to give you that extra cash infusion or that extra confidence boost, where you are able to generate your own income and your own clients, students, projects, businesses. That is going to not just help you feel more confident, it's going to give you the confidence to actually learn French, because you'll be like, okay, great, so I can do this in a country which is foreign to me, outside my comfort zone. I can generate my own income, commission, whatever it is, even if it's $50, even if it's $100 per month. It's going to give you that boost to make you feel like you can do anything else. I'll give you an example of how I tweaked my way and how I have changed from job to job, industry to industry within a span of 10 years, be it in my professional career or be it in my business. So for example, I started off when I was in France. Before that, I had experience in FMCG food products, and then I moved to France. And at that time, I thought that maybe I can target automotive companies, because a lot of French companies, French car companies like Renault and Peugeot, they were interested in expanding their market in India. And one of my career counselors in EM told me that why don't you target companies like that? So I thought that was a great strategy. I started targeting such companies. Coincidentally, I found one which was in the world of automotive. And then after that, I also wanted to try out FMCG, because my heart lied in that. Can I say lied? Because my heart was in FMCG and I got into my dream company. Only thing that you can focus on is your present now, and think of the Pareto's rule. So if you're not familiar with Pareto's rule, it says that 20% of your efforts give 80% of results. Instead of going up the upstream way, which is far more difficult, in trying to do something which is not your skill, and saying that I'm going to learn French in the next 6 months and be fluent and focus on that. Yes, definitely do that. I'm not saying don't. While you're in France, it's very important, and definitely appreciate the local language. Instead of putting so much pressure on yourself, I would rather that you focus on your existing strengths and capitalize that, so that 20% of your efforts actually give you 80% of results, instead of 80% of your effort giving you only 20% of the results. In my own business, I started with fashion and lifestyle, and now currently I'm doing French related videos. And if you're still watching this video, then I'm probably doing something right. Speaking about business, I will always suggest that you start your own side hustle or your own identity, personal brand outside of your professional brand. And by now, if you got some idea of what your strengths are, but you're wondering how to get your first client, student, or your first project, then let me know in the comments below. I will make a video on how to get your first client. While you wait for the next video, check out these playlists that I've created for you. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.